So my name's Rianne Scott. I'm the Managing Director of RS Elite Consulting.
So my name is Derry Long and I am the Group Business Development Manager for Frankham Consultancy Group.
Could you please, what would your networking tips or tip be for people who are just starting out in the industry and who are nervous about attending?
I think it's to kind of perhaps do a little bit of research on the networking events that you're looking to go to. Perhaps reach out on LinkedIn to kind of get an idea of the type of events that are out there and where they are. I think it would be to perhaps go to an event where people, or where perhaps you might know one person that is familiar with the group and are then able to kind of do introductions to you, especially if you're a relatively nervous person or networking is not your thing, or you don't kind of feel comfortable initially to kind of just walk up to a group of people and say, hi, my name is, and then kind of go straight in with it like that. Can be quite daunting, I think, for people.
Derry, what would your networking tip or tips be for people who are just starting out in the industry and who are a bit nervous about attending?
Well, if you're going to a networking function, everyone in that room is expecting to network. So just get stuck in. Don't be frightened. Yeah, and people will always be welcoming you. Yeah, they won't. I've never been to a function where nobody says get lost. This is a private conversation, because that just doesn't happen. So yeah, just get stuck in. Don't be frightened, and nothing is a stupid question, because networking is all about connectivity, connections, and you just might meet someone who will introduce you to someone, and that could be a multi-million-pound contract or a deal. So yeah.
So Rianne, what's the biggest networking no-no that you've seen many other people doing over your time in the industry?
I think trying to sell, and that sounds perhaps silly, because people that perhaps don't know what networking is or are not familiar with networking might kind of say, well, that's the whole point of you going there, surely. If you walk into a room and shove a business card in somebody's face, instantly it kind of gets people's, oh, I don't even know who you are, I don't know, do you know what I mean? So it's about, the biggest thing with networking is consistency. Consistency is key, and finding a group which is you feel comfortable in and you can grow and develop in. And I think that's, if you go to a networking event once and think I can get something from this straight away, you're very much mistaken. I mean, I can probably count on half a hand the amount of times where I've walked into an event first time and taken any business from it. So it's about kind of that longevity. It's a journey. It's not a quick fix. It is about the consistency, and about, it's a bit of a cliche with like kind of, BNI is good for certain people, but it is that giver's gain. It's about kind of going to an event and actually being a part of it, and not trying to take from it too quickly.
Derry?
Going to a networking event, it comes back down to the 6 points of contact before people will actually engage with you, doing business with you. So to go to an event, it generally starts off with small talk, and it might be something so silly about how your journey to the actual event was. Something's happened, and then people become curious and interested. And at some point during the conversation, someone will say, what do you do? That's the opportunity to sell or to promote, but it's not a hard sell. I wouldn't expect someone then to get out their iPad and start doing me a presentation, but that takes you on to the next point of contact where, well, why don't we meet? Let's have a coffee and have a chat. So you're taking it to the next stage, and it is all about stages. So I think people, anyone who expects to get work straight away from going to a networking function is deluded, is going to be too strong a word, but it is missing the point.
I think it's that people do that on LinkedIn, don't they? It's the same sort of thing as like you make contact on LinkedIn, and then as soon as you make a contact with them, it's like, would you like to know about my, and they sort of drill in straight away.
That has been so more so just recently. I don't know whether somebody's released a book on it or whether there's a new app there that's people, I don't know what, but the amount of DMs that I'm getting in my inbox going straight in for a sell, and literally I open it, and as soon as I read the first line, instigating to me that it's I'm gone. I've deleted. I've not engaged. I couldn't even tell you whether what they're selling me is something that I want, but I'm not interested. And like Derry said, it's quite hard, but it's a true fact of life.
So what is your secret tip that makes you great at networking?
It's got to be listening and learning about the people that you're engaging with. I remember I've only been networking for 5 years. I mean, I did B&I before then, but from a networking in kind of London, going to formal and organised events, I've only been doing this for about 5 years. And I remember the first networking event I went to in London, and then the second event I went to was the Doyle Club in London, and I got talking to a guy there, and he ended up, we had the conversation and we were talking and we were sharing. He was going to golf the following week. He was going to, I think, Benidorm on a golfing trip and stuff. And then the next time I saw him was probably about 6 months later, and I remembered his name. I remembered that he was going to golf, and I remember that he worked for like a university doing some kind of child charity work and things. And when I saw him again, I was like, "Oh, hi Clive, how are you? How did you get on at the golf? It probably seems a long distant memory." And he was like, "Wow, that's like, how did you remember that? How do you?" And it gets more difficult the more events you go to and the more people that you meet, and sometimes that can become a bit more difficult. But I think it's about actually taking a genuine interest in the person and the people that you're networking and talking with. You're not always going to like people, and people are not always going to like you. But I think if you can develop those relationships, and sometimes mine and Derry's, we met through networking, and we're friends now. Do you know what I mean? And that's ultimately sometimes what develops out of networking. But it's about just listening and engaging with the people that you're networking with, and not being too dismissive too quickly, I think, as well.
Derry?
Engaging with people. I like being with people, and so I have this natural ability, which I don't take for granted, but I can get people to open up, and it's about listening. It's about welcoming people, and you'll see a few people and that are, should we say, gooseberries. Just go up and have a conversation with them, because I know what it's like, seeing people who haven't been to things, but linking people together to say, you need to come and talk to this person. So again, it's that connectivity. So totally endorse what Rianne has said about the listening, okay, and it's picking up snippets of information, and I think all that sort of information is registering in my head to think, this is potentially a hot contact, a warm contact, or just someone you just put in the archive. It's in the back of your head, but down the line, not at that event, and it could be 2 or 3 years later, something will be said, and then suddenly, like, the light bulb goes off in your head, and there's a connection. So it's a visual version. Well, it's not a visual version. LinkedIn is the visual version of networking, in a sense, but the fact you've actually had a conversation with someone, and people feel more engaged having the ability to, because they've spoken to someone. There's that sort of comfort, It's all about people have relationships with people. It's not companies that have relationships with companies. So if someone moves from the company, the flock will follow them. And that's how business is done. It's all about people. So we're at the front end of developing those sort of relationships and trying to garner information and opportunities from those relationships.
How do you best follow up on networking conversations from a business development perspective?
I think it's about picking the phone up. I don't think sending an email can kind of work too well. I think you need to kind of pick the phone up and, like Derry mentioned earlier, take that next step. When you're in a networking environment, there are tons of people there, and not everybody's going to remember you. You might remember them, but they might not remember you. So it's about taking that next step and arranging a one-to-one, if you like, following that initial meeting, to just kind of go and have a coffee, go grab some lunch, whatever, on a one-to-one basis. Or even if there's three of you, if you think that there's some synergy between you and that person and yourself, maybe take somebody with you that would be of benefit to them, so that you're being shown to be an introducer. So they might be able to give you work, but could you take a third person along to this coffee, this informal meet up, this lunch, or whatever it might be, that could be of benefit to them, which is probably going to give them more of an incentive to take that next step, and then feel that you've actually given them something and you're not sitting there wanting from them, if that makes sense.
Derry?
For me, the follow-up is there's a multiple attack here. I generally will, so I have a business card, or I've given a card, but the first thing is I would generally sort of link in with them so that there's a connection. Okay, so again, this going back to this at the 6 points of contact. Okay, so I'm now moving up my line to start that. So connecting on LinkedIn, and then either a phone call or an email to say great to meet you. I think there is some synergy. Can we explore some collaboration opportunities? And literally, go and have a coffee, go to their office, whatever. I mean, wherever they feel comfortable. Some of them, will beat you to it. They'll go, I had a great time last night, but yes, I'm interested in what you do. And that's serendipity. That's happy days, yeah? But most BD, there is graft in the background, working away. And business development is a long game. It's not, sales is quick, it's instant. And that's the differentiator. Business development is all about relationships over a period of time. So, as I said previously, when the light bulb goes off, that might be with the recipient saying, I need to talk to Derry because something that within the Frankham Consultancy Group they do that I need their expertise. I've got pain and I need them to help. So it's all about and the follow-up is crucial. Whether you meet someone, let's say we go to UKREiiF and you're going to meet tons and tons of people. I will generally categorize hot, warm, cold, but every one of them I will reach out to say, lovely to meet you, let's connect in, because their connection could be my next multi-million pound contract.
What's your biggest tip when preparing for networking events?
You don't always know who obviously are going to be at the events. They don't always provide you with kind of guest lists or anything like that. I mean, I do always kind of tend to research any events that I'm going to find out that they are obviously industry specific. I think that's quite crucial to ensure that you are looking at the events that you go into and making sure that they're relevant to your sector. I mean, that's not to say though that just because you might meet a financial advisor that he's not going to be of use to you, but there needs to be some kind of synergy between you and the type of people that you might be meeting. So I think that's quite important to make sure that the type of events that you go into, and obviously making sure that you give him plenty of time to get to the events and making sure that you've got timings and locations and everything. If you're going from one meeting to another and things like that, just ensuring that you've got the right detail, because obviously lots of some events are different to others, and it might be that you look to see who's on maybe the LinkedIn page or the LinkedIn group for that particular networking event. And it might be that you can see somebody that you do know that has been to that event before, and you might give them a ring or something and say, oh, I'm going to this on this date. Are you going? What's the kind of format? Are there any kind of tips that you would say, or anything about the event before you went? So I think that's probably would be my answer to that.
I would say, yeah, research the event before going in, and obviously, is it applicable for you to go? Because obviously time is precious, yeah. So there's no point in rocking up to an event where it's the wrong audience. Okay, so to do your research beforehand, but also, reach out to the organisers to say, hey, who is attending, and under GDPR they may say, I can't give you that information, but okay, well, just tell me who the companies are. You don't want you're not really interested in the names, but you want to get an idea of the flavour of who's coming along. And the one thing I've noticed, which is very useful, the UKREiiF team and Ben, they provide you with a list of companies that have been represented that are attending in a function. That makes my homework a lot easier, in all fairness. So it's having that information. Then likewise, going to the function and meeting, is asking the individuals who organise it, who's in the room. Just get a quick assessment before going off, and let them point you in the right direction. So yeah, a bit of research would be my key to that.
Tips on small talk, because small talk it's one of those things a lot of people don't like doing. Have you got any kind of little topics, or is there any kind of little bits of small talk that you do to break the ice? Because it can be awkward just walking up to somebody and going, hi, I'm Steve or Dave or Rianne. It's like, have you got any kind of icebreakers that you could share?
I think normally it's, have you been to this event before? Like Derry mentioned earlier, like, have you been to anything else beforehand? How was your travel here? Something like that. I have been to networking events where they, as you walk in, to make it a bit fun, they kind of give you a post-it note or a bit of paper with kind of icebreaker questions on, and it'll be silly little things like, what was the last movie you saw, or who's your favourite actor, or do you, if you read a book, if you was a character in a book, who would you? Silly little things like that, which can be quite fun sometimes, just to kind of, like you say, break that ice. But I think a lot of the time it's kind of, have you been to this event before? Do you do a lot of networking? And then on from there, really, would be my best answer on that.
Thank you. Derry, just quickly at the end.
Yeah, I do a forward roll with pike and then stand up and ta-da. No, I generally, it's rocking up, and it might be just having a conversation. If they have a name badge, just looking at the name of the company, saying, I've heard of you guys, or whatever. But right down to the sort of, have you had fast travel? Have you been here before? They're the sort of standard opening questions here before, and then, or, asking someone who's never been here, is there anyone I can point you to that's going to help you? So, and being an introducer, even though it's not your event, but, sure. People, but again, because people will remember that, and they have that, it's that soft touch. It's that
being the host.
It's being the host, even though it's not your event. Exactly.
Right. Yeah, and I think that it's a key one, and it's something that Derry does very well, and I tend to do. Sometimes I've been to networking events where I've got to the end and people have gone, you've not actually told us what you do, because I've spent the entire event kind of going, oh, you need to speak to such and such, and you need to speak to such and such, and Steve Handel, Derry, another connection of ours, and who we do host the events with and things, and he's equally the same. I sometimes I have to prompt him and say, look, go tell somebody what you do, and you need to speak to this person.
But following on from that is a great point to say, I don't know what you do. Great. Why don't we meet up for a coffee and I'll tell you all about me? Yeah. It's as simple as that. It's just that connection. It's that taking it to the next stage. Yeah. And then moving it down the line. And, and that's really, I think that's the success, is how you start from not knowing anybody and then opening up a door and then going through that and taking that person with you and saying, look, you know, we could work together. That's the ultimate goal. But at the end, but no, I think, no, that's not wrong. I want to have people that I will have relationships with in 10 years' time that will come to me and say, you need to talk to Derry, yeah? Because that to me is, you know, that I'm established and whatever. So someone new coming on board, okay, that's where you want to be, to say, I remember when you first came, now you are the point man that can help other people. So